Go. Basi Legani Tovshin Chav Daled, the second paragraph of Eis Gimel. Okay, the Rebbe is basically alluding to a question. In Tanya, it comes out V'yatem Achayes Kulam that it's not the level of Atzmutz. It's only the letters. And yet here we're knowing, it's saying basically that every creation can only come from the essence of Hashem. So the Rebbe is explaining that it's the essence of Hashem creating, but it's going through the letters of the Aleph base. Because Hashem could want to be revealed, Hashem could want to be concealed. So by creation, Hashem chose to be concealed. So he says now, this revelation of Elokus, is brought down to make not only give life, but to make exist, from something to nothing. Like it says, these few lines we learned. Even though it says in the pasuk, you give life to everything, but the Alter Rebbe explains in Shayach Ramuna, don't read it that you give life to everything, but actually you create everything, then a yesh miyayin. So he says, like he brings before this the Baal Shem Tov's interpretation of that forever Hashem your words are standing in the heaven. In a way of the Asis Adibur, that the speech from Aleph to Tov Shabbat Sora Maimoris, aimed at Midas, are constantly standing in a way of Nitzav, like it says Nitzav Melech, the standing of a king, Shemeir al Heder Hashinui, which means there's never a change. When you say that Hashem is standing firmly, that means you're not waving, you're not changing anything. You are what you are, and it's constantly in the heaven, and that is okay, this is where we're up to. So in other words, what does the utterances of Hashem do? It first creates it, it makes it exist, yesh mi'ayin, and then it makes it keeps it alive. So he says, this is where we're up to. The inyan of this is as follows. In creation or in keeping something alive, there's a difference in the revelation if the Or is sustaining something or creating it. It's a big difference. Meaning, let's explain somewhere else. As far as creation, in other words, the fact that creations exist, yesh miyayin, Hashem wanted, that the way of creation should be, that the Creator conceals Himself from the creation. This is the way Hashem wanted. In creation, because the definition of creation we said is yesh mi'ayin. It's called yesh because it doesn't feel its source. Now the reason it doesn't feel its source is because Hashem hides Himself that the source should not be felt. So in creation Hashem wants that the thing should be yesh mi'ayin, meaning ad kadei kach, to such an extent. The feeling, in other words, what the creation feels is that it has no source. What's it? It has no source before it. It is a true existence. What? Before I explain this, what?
Does he really hide himself?
Yeah.
Or as it says in the Torah that I'm going to hide myself, or he's so big that in order for us to leave, he has to conceal itself.
It's basically the same thing. Hashem, because He's so great. In other words, let me explain what He's going to answer your question. The Rebbe is explaining this. In creation, Hashem wanted that He should be concealed from the creation. The Mahava, the creator, is hidden from the Misava, meaning from the thing that's created, to such an extent that when you say Yesh Mi'ayin, something from nothing, so if it's something from nothing, meaning there is no source for me. It's not, if it's something, then I don't come from nothing, right? So when you use the expression in Hebrew, Yesh Mi'ayin, something from nothing, that means, if you stop to think for a minute, so as far as the creation is concerned, what is its source? So the answer is, from the creation's perspective, it doesn't have a source. That's why it's called ayin. There is no source. What does that mean? That means in its own feeling, in its own
perception,
comprehension of it, perception, it comes a self-existent entity. Because it's it feels itself as a self-existent entity. Because if it's Yesh Mi'ayin, means it doesn't feel that it has a source. That means as far as it's concerned, there is no source. That's the definition, Yesh Mi'ayin. One second. Yesh Mi'ayin means I come from nothing. So what is your source? It itself, which is, as the Rabbi uses the expression, and Hashem, but Hashem wanted people to feel that way, that it's mitziusi me'atzmusi, it's a self-existent entity. And that's what Hashem wanted in creation. So in other words, because, as we learned many times, there's two aspects of Hashem. There's Hashem is unlimited, infinite, yes? But even Or could be Ein Sof. But by definition, light has a source. So Or, coming from the sun, or from anything, is not Yesh Mi'ayin. There is a source, right? There is a source, the sun, and now there's light from the sun. Ruchnius, which is bottle to Elokus, that's the definition of Ruchnius, it's bottle to Elokus. That level of Ruchnius feels its source. That's why it's bottled to it. Okay? If you feel a source, that means you're bottled to it. Gashmius, Hashem created in the way what's called Yesh Mi'ayin. Okay? Bara means, Breishit Bara, we said, the Ramban says in Lashon Kodesh, Bara means Yesh Mi'ayin. Okay? You don't create a table, you build a table. Because you're not taking something from nothing. You're taking something wood and you're making it into a table. So Yesh Mi'ayin by definition means that the Yesh doesn't feel its source. That's why he thinks he's Yesh Mi'ayin. Now if it doesn't have a source, what does it think it is? So he thinks it's a self-existent entity. Now, in Elokus, come back to this point. Elokus has two aspects to him. It's Ein Sof, but as was all over the place, Hashem is not only endless, he's Ein Lo Tchila, he has no beginning. Now, anything that has an end probably has a beginning, the thing that made it. But if you didn't make him, so he's a self-existent entity, which is really only God is the real self-existent entity, because everything else in the world comes from Hashem, so there is a source. The only thing that's sourceless, which is in reality the real Metziusi Matzmusei, the real self-existent entity, that's Hashem himself. Now, Hashem wanted, and this is all about the Dir of Tachteinim, Hashem wanted to create something, i.e. a world, that is Yesh Mi'ayin, which by definition means the Yesh doesn't feel where it comes from. Someone says it comes from nothing, which means in its own existence, it feels that it's a self-existent entity.
Well, it says that in the Torah that Hashem wanted.
Yeah, well, you know why he wanted? Because he did it. Nisava Kodesh Baruch Hu liyis baruch v'tachteinu. Now, in the negativity, in the negative aspect of it, self-existent entity, you think you're God alone. Right? That's terrible. It's a terrible trait to think, I'm greater than God. But in reality, yesh mi'ayin, everything in the world is to reveal an aspect of godliness. Yesh mi'ayin reveals the aspect of godliness that he has no beginning. Because in its own feeling, which is real for the creation's feeling, what it feels is real. What you feel is real. For you, that's real. So the creation feels that it doesn't have a source. In other words, this creation called Yesh Mi'ayin feels that I don't have a source. I am a self-existent entity. That reveals the level and the aspect of God, that he is a self-existent entity, greater than Ruchnius, which reveals the aspect God has no end to him. He's infinite. So Gashmius, in essence, reveals a deeper level in the positive, not in the negative. No source means, I'm God's gift to the world. I'm God. Whatever. I'm greater than God. But in the positivity of it, which aspect of God reveals the aspect of Hashem that he has no beginning? Gashmius, not Ruchnius. So therefore, the Alter Rebbe is saying like this: when Hashem created Gashmius Yesh Mi'ayin, he wanted it in a way that it should be concealed. That means Gashmius doesn't feel its source. It feels itself to be a self-existent entity, because that's what Hashem wants in Gashmius to be revealed. Then when Gashmius, who comes from a source, in other words, the question is, if Gashmius feels, which again, its existence is what it feels. If it feels that it has no beginning, where does that come from in godliness? It comes in the aspect of godliness that it has no beginning. And therefore, that's why we learned, when Mashiach comes and the essence of godliness will be revealed, what reveals a deeper level of godliness? Gashmius more than the Ruchnius. Now we don't see the source, so Ruchnius reveals godliness, Gashmius, the physical, conceals godliness. That's why Ruchnius now is higher than Gashmius. Neshama, Ruchnius, is higher than the body physical. But when Mashiach comes, and the positivity of everything will be revealed, so then the body will be, and that source of self-existent entity will be revealed, so the body will sustain the neshama, not like today that the neshama sustains the body. Now what's everybody's problem?
But Rabbi, if God wanted to conceal from us, and you are just explaining and revealing the truth, you are essentially unveiling that. So what did he accomplish with this?
I'll tell you a little secret, but don't tell everybody. Until today you didn't know it. And even now that I explained it, I still don't know it. Huh? If it ain't like tchil, it's automatically ain't like sof. No beginning automatically means there's no end because nobody made you. So there's nothing to stop you.
So it's the infinite of infinite.
Okay, so he says like this. Huh?
Don't try to make sense of it.
You can't make sense of it because it's way above our understanding. But the reason why a neshama can feel this, because the neshama in essence is a part of Hashem. So you can't understand it, but you could feel it.
You can sense it, but not fully.
Right. So that the feeling of the creation is that he Gashmius things, it's a real existence, a true existence. When you're talking about, that's the Hisavos. When it talks about the Chayus, the life of it, when a person meditates and thinks, how am I living? Then, Bali de Havana, he comes to an understanding to the extent it's felt by him. When you have life, I'm alive, then obviously you know that there's a life that's giving me life. So the difference is like this. Because he's explaining, Va'ata mechayes kulam doesn't only mean you give life to everything, you create everything. Like it said, don't read it mechaya, read it mahava, you create everything. So, no, that's mechaya. Mechaya means, mahava means you create it. But the Rebbe is explaining there's two levels in the mechaya mahava. Mahava means, by definition, that the creator is concealed within the creation. Therefore, the creation feels it's a separate entity. But the level of giving life to the world, just like a person knows that we never see our neshama, we don't know what it is all about, but the difference between a living person and a dead person is, a person feels that a living person has, we call it neshama, call it chocolate, I don't care what you call it. There's something in us keeping us existing. That is felt and understood within us.
But the neshama is something not physical.
Right, but obviously, I know I have a neshama because I wouldn't, I'd be dead. And a person who dies is because the neshama left him.
Yes.
Okay, so he says, Bali de Havana until Sheyesh Shemaka Shemachaya Isa. Alpha Pisha Havana Vagoshim B'miyat Vitzimtzim. Even though, again, the understanding that we have a neshama is extremely, extremely limited. When it says, it gives an example. Hashem says, Tachi ha'aretz desha, that the earth should sprout out vegetation. Right? That's what it. Now, Sheyesh Bazeh Beizin Yonim. When Hashem said, let the earth sprout out vegetation, right? There's two things. There's this harvest mitzias adesha. There's number one, vegetation becomes existing. Uprate fanim the kiyim v'chayis adesha. And there's a second aspect to it, how the vegetation lives. It grows this way, it grows this way, it grows like this, what it looks like, what color it is, what it is. Sheyesh me'hamador shemri b'gishamim. They need a lot of rain. Some vegetation needs a lot of rain. And certain vegetation needs a little bit of rain, minimal rain. Some need, like we know, certain things grow in warm climates, certain things grow in cold climates. Okay, so there's two things. Hashem said, let there be vegetation. Vegetation became existent. But this vegetation exists differently, in the way it functions, the life of it is different. Some need a lot of rain, little rain. Some are green, some are yellow, some are purple, some grow in heat, some grow, like it says in Zaysa Bracha, some things grow from the sunlight, some things grow from the moonlight. Therefore, Sha'adam is Bainam Bazat, when a person meditates into that, Azar Bali Yadiyah V'Havana, then he comes to an understanding. He understands that obviously there's a force making this grow green, yellow, hot, cold, little rain, lot rain. For any grass or vegetation, to be alive. But by meditating, which we could, in the aspect how it gives life to it, then you come to a deeper understanding. Then you need to realize finally that there's something creating it. Because bottom line is, we know nothing is a self-existent entity. You know, originally by nature we feel we don't have a source. But when you think about it, you have to realize, yeah, we don't just pop up, you know. There's something that made us. Because begili, therefore, what does the pasuk say? Ata mechaya eskula. Because that's openly felt. The life of it, how we live. Ba'ata mechaya eskula. And then it comes the limud. Al tikri mechaya el mahava. Don't read it only gives life, but actually creates kiyador, like it's known. Shalimud al tikri eina shel el meisif ayin. Anything we say in that, al tikri banoyach el banoyach. Yeah. When it says al tikri, don't read it this way. Read it this way. It doesn't mean only the second way. It means the second way is adding onto the first way, but the first way exists also. So when the pasuk says, when it says, "Atam mechaya es kulam," you give life to everything, and you read it mahava, right? It's not excluding mechaya; it's an addition to mechaya. So first comes the level of mechaya, that we understand that there's an existence, that life, that we function a certain way. Then we come to a deeper understanding that even though I feel as a self-existent entity, but really I'm not.
Mahava and Chai is almost synonymous.
No, that's he explaining it's not the same. Mahava means it's not the same. Creating something or giving life to something is two different things. A battery gives life to the thing the battery's in. Right?
Creating is bringing life.
Let me tell you something. Even in Gashmias, okay, you have a car. Yeah, let's talk about a car. You have the neshama of the car and the goof of the car, right? You have the motor, whether it's electric or whatever. Yeah, there's the soul of the car and then the body of the car. Do you know there are body shops and there are mechanics? Rarely do you find both together unless it's two different departments, right? There is the neshama of the car, so to speak, and there's the body of the car. So there is the creation, the motor gives life to the car, but it doesn't create the body of the car. And the same thing in the world. Hashem created a world in a way that he concealed himself, that is called yesh mi'ayin, and then there's the life of the world. The energy. And that you feel the source of it. So he says, but by meditating into the life of it, then you will come to realize that there's a creator, that you're not really yesh mi'ayin. And both of these words, mechaya mahava, are in the pasuk, v'ata mechaya mahava, ata. The letter is Aleph Taf Hey. Ubei said Tevata Mechayes Kulam. Shazehu Odis Erlaki. Nimshach Lahavis Lahachis is Kol HaNivroim. That this level of Elokus is not only giving life, but it also creates it. What's the difference between a living person and a dead person?
Brain dies, the heart stops, and
What made it go and what made it stop?
the brain stops, the heart stops.
What made the brain stop? All of a sudden it was ticking.
Not that I believe in that, but the brain stops and the heart stops.
I understand. But there's something that made it stop. Just like there's something that made it start.
There's a block.
So what happens if there's a blockage?
The heart will then stop. And brain.
But what makes the block or what makes it stop? Why isn't there always a blockage?
Could be a disease, could be a length of
It's more weird to think it has a self-existent entity rather than there's something that keeps it going.
Of course.
But it's more logical. It's more logical to believe in God than not to believe in God. If you believe in God, there are no questions. If you don't believe in God, there are no answers. Then nothing makes sense. So if you believe in God, of course it doesn't make sense, because Hashem doesn't make sense from our understanding. We can't understand Hashem. But if there is, somebody says there is no God, then nothing makes sense. So,
I'm just saying there is no proof. I'm not saying
there is. You have a brain?
No.
A physical brain you have?
Yes.
Okay. Do I see it? No.
No.
How do I know you have a brain?
I thought, I watch, I look.
But that, I don't see the brain.
No, there is empirical
You
knowledge.
don't see the brain. Does that mean you don't have a brain?
But you know that if you open it's there.
But you see the
What do you mean you open it? Did you open it?
I've seen a lot.
Did you ever see a living brain?
No.
So how do you know there's a brain?
Because there's
You believe the doctor that saw it.
Rabbi, there's
So you believe a human being?
No, you see the hands move, the eyes.
But again, that proves there's a neshama. What makes the hands move?
no.
No, it doesn't.
Then the brain makes the hand move.
No, the brain tells the hand to move, but who allows the hand to move? Not the brain. The brain says move, but who allows it to move? It's not the brain.
Muscle.
Oh. You
came to solve
captured the whole shir in 5 seconds.
So if we have Rabbi, we have to reveal Hakakah. We understand that. That's our job.
Yeah, that's what it's all.
Now, somebody goes in coma.
Yeah, they're alive.
Chas v'shalom. And what is this coma? Why Hashem put this person in coma? He can't reveal anything. He's not.
The fact that the Tzemach Tzedek said, the fact that the neshama is in the body is a tremendous pleasure to Hashem. Now, seemingly the person is not functioning, but obviously, again, if we would understand, we would be God. Hashem has a function for this comatose vegetative state person. That's why he didn't take his neshama away. This person has a function in the world until Hashem takes away the neshama. And Hashem says, do everything possible to keep that neshama in the body. And therefore, because life is of infinite value, quality of life really doesn't matter. It doesn't fall into place.
Wow.
That's why in Hebrew we say no shem neshama.